Hi, it's B-Sides, The Darkening Age, Part 5, in which we'll pick up right where we left off in Part 4. If you'd like to start at Part 1, here's the Darkening Age playlist. It's a little messy, if you're curious. There's a short, very dramatic title, a little bit clickbaity. Chicken philosophy is not ending. Nothing really is ending. The only thing that really applies to is two things. Most directly, most specifically, the episode called Meccan Revelations 86 ends. That's the end. The short is the end. I mean, I took the end of Meccan Revelation Part 86 and made it into a short called How It Ends. It's also how the Monsoon 15 ends. Monsoon 15 is the cycle of 15 that we just finished. And the last part is also the end of the last episode of the Monsoon 15, which happens to be Meccan Revelation Part 86. Enough A-sides. Let's stick to B-sides over here on B-sides. Besides... no, I just felt like saying besides there. I thought that'd be funny. Okay. Alright, let's see where we left off. I don't really remember. It was so long ago. Let's do this, shall we? Okay. Not everyone was so delighted. How delighted? As delighted as they were at the end of Part 4. According to Antony's biographer, Athanasius, not to be confused with Athanasius Kircher or Saint Athanasius. It's just a common name back then, Greek name like Bob or whatever. Athanasius, Satan looked on the hair shirt wearing sleepless saint and was revolted. Isn't that a good thing? That Rick and Morty episode. I'm embarrassed, which makes me proud. Or no, I'm ashamed. Never mind. This was intolerable virtue in one so young, and so the Prince of Darkness had to act. Why are you making noise over there, huh? Stop it. Knock it off. I sprayed you with air. What do you want? To be replaced? Probably he wants to be replaced. How old is it in computer years if I got it in? I think it was 2021. Anyway. Or 2020. I don't know. I don't remember. Yes, this was intolerable virtue in one so young, and so the Prince of Darkness had to act. He was in no doubt what form his attack should take. Okay. Antony was a man who scorned the pleasures of the flesh, and so it was with the pleasures of the flesh that he would be tempted. Sounds reasonable. What are we reading? Unclean thoughts were, Athanasius explains, Satan's standard weapon for tempting youths. And so he began sending seductive dreams to disturb the young innocent by night. Alas, the holy Antony was a match for this. He pushed them away with the power... What? Was a match for this. Okay, like the opposite of no match for this. Yeah, okay, whatever. He pushed them away with the power of constant prayer. Yeah, that'll make it go limp. The devil was forced to move to a second-tier temptation. One night, the thwarted Satan, not Sataned, turned himself into the form of a beautiful young woman. Have you been watching From? Spoilers. Never mind. Right. A beautiful young woman omitting, adds Athanasius, a master of the intriguing aside, quote, no detail that might provoke lascivious thoughts. No detail. Omitting no detail, which might provoke... Oh, that makes the imagination. End quote. Antony struggled, but stood firmly by calling to mind, quote, the fiery punishment of hell and the torment inflicted by worms. End quote. Satan gnashed his teeth with fury. But what the fuck are we reading? This doesn't really fit with the theme of the rest of this book, does it? Hopefully we'll get back to the trashing Christians sometime soon. Satan gnashed his teeth with fury, but he wasn't done yet. He decided to send his trump card, an apparition in the form of a young black boy, who prostrated himself at Antony's feet. As he lay there, the demon announced that he was the, quote, friend of fornication. Oh, he just didn't know what Antony was into. Okay. End quote, and bragged about how many chaste souls he had led astray. Antony responded by singing a psalm, an act that was, even then, so anaphrodisiac, A-N-A-phrodisiac, so like anti-aphrodisiac, that the boy instantly vanished. So remember, psalms make the wiener go away, I assume. Although I can imagine certain psalms in certain situations with certain soldiers making it harder. No, never mind. That was it. Antony, like religious folks who think that God... Never mind. Antony might have won these early battles a figurative erection. I mean, it's in most cases, I would assume. People don't literally like it. It's not really... Never mind. I'll just keep reading. Antony might have won these early battles, but his war with evil was far from over. Over the following decades, as he moved about the emptiness of the desert, he faced repeated demonic onslaught. He was beaten so severely by demons that he was unable to speak. He saw the rules of nature flouted. Thin air turned into silver that then disappeared like smoke. Walls turned into air and scorpions. Lions and vipers streamed through and mauled him. He even saw Satan himself. He appeared to Antony just as he had appeared to Job. His eyes were like the morning star. His mouth poured forth incense. His hair was sprinkled with flames. His is a redhead. His nostrils fumed with smoke, and his breath was like a glowing coal. Antony, his biographer recorded, found it, quote, terrifying, end quote. Then there's a little space. Today, the story of how Christianity came to conquer Rome is told in reassuringly secular terms. It is a tale of weakened emperors and invading barbarian armies, of punitive taxation, gruesome plagues, and a tired and weary populace. Where religion is mentioned in these narratives, it is often given a psychological role. This, runs the argument, was an age of anxiety, disease, war, famine, and death, not to mention the equally unavoidable horror of the tax collector, prowled the empire. During one 50-year period in the 3rd century, no fewer than 26 emperors and perhaps as many, if not more, usurpers claimed power. Well, isn't that subjective? Who's the usurper and whom? Well, I guess I've been watching too much House of the Dragon, right? The barbarians, though not yet quite at the gate, were certainly massing thereby, launching raids on Britain, Gaul, Spain, Morocco, and even Italy itself. Did they call it that back then? Probably, I don't know. Just when things seemed as though they couldn't get any worse, a terrible plague descended in which victims' intestines were, quote, shaken with a continual vomiting, end quote. Their eyes were, quote, on fire with the injected blood, end quote. The feet of parts of the limbs were, quote, taken off by the contagion, there it is, of diseased putrefaction, end quote, not to mention other, even less savory afflictions. Who, argue traditional narratives of Christianity, would not search for reassurance at such a time? Who would not be drawn to a religion that reassured its followers that, if not in this life, then perhaps in the next, things would be a little more pleasant. Who would not long to be told that someone, somewhere, had a plan, and that this was all part of it? As one 20th century historian put it, quote, in an age of anxiety, any quote-within-quote totalist, end quote-within-quote creed exerts a powerful attraction. One has only to think of the appeal of communism to many bewildered minds in our own day, end quote. What do you think? Is the author gonna give a little side note about, even though the idiot decided to make that comparison, the point still stands? Or is the author going to tacitly agree with the assessment about those bewildered by communism being similar to those bewildered by the Nicene Creed? I don't know. Let's keep reading. But continues the line of argument. I mean, I can see from a bird's eye view, like, this guy with the beard said this, wrote this book, and that made those people kill the king and take over the government. All right, yeah, but you could say the same thing about the Declaration of Independence now, couldn't you? Oh, wait, Thomas Jefferson didn't have a beard. I take it all back. But continues this line of argument, they didn't kill the king either, because he was in England, obviously. But, continues this line of argument, the old religions of Rome did not offer such comfort. Far from it. Well, did the Christians kill the king? Never mind. I guess the communists are the only ones that killed the Tsar and his family, right? The Greco-Roman underworld, they killed a librarian, right? Not the American revolutionists, the Christians, right? They probably killed a few people, especially, I mean, she was a particularly evil librarian, right? The one in the, played by, what's her name? Good old what's her name? It's in the description below. The thumbnail lady from the movie Hypatia? No, I always get that wrong. That's like a Greek goddess, isn't it? Hysterectomy? No. What is her name? The librarian. Herodotus? Nope. Hypatia. Did I say that twice? I think I did. It's right here, right in front of me. Let me just pull it up like so many pants. Yeah, it's Hypatia. I said it 3 times. Rachel Weisz portraying Hypatia in the film Agora. Haven't seen it, but there was an article about this book where they used that image, so I just snagged it to use for the thumbnail. Why not? Okay. But continues this line of argument, the old religions of Rome did not offer such comfort. Far from it. The Greco-Roman underworld was a place where Tantalus was tortured by thirst, and where Sisyphus spent his days rolling a stone uphill only to have it roll back down again. Oh, that finally makes sense. He's in the afterlife. All right. Hardly the sort of place one might wish to retire to. Nor did the Greco-Roman religious system offer much guidance to the living. That's what the Christians say, right? These cults did not provide a moral handbook for everyday life. They issued no commandments or catechisms or creeds to guide the souls of the uncertain between birth and death. There were broad rules and demands for sacrifice. Admittedly, where the ambit of religion petered out, then philosophy might step in to provide some solace. But given that the grin and bear it philosophy of Stoicism was one of the most popular of the age, this was a cold comfort at best. Quote, the world's a stage and life's a toy, end quote. Yeah. As one Greek poet later wrote bleakly, no, the world's a stage and life's a toy, end quote. And then, as one Greek poet later wrote bleakly, and then there's a different quote. So, who wrote the first thing? Was that Shakespeare? I thought. Dress up and play your part. Or maybe this is the same Greek poet. So, Shakespeare is ripping off somebody. But an unnamed Greek poet. Dress up and play your part. Put every serious thought away, or risk a broken heart. Then, into this chilly, nihilistic world burst Christianity. Not only did the new religion offer comfort, companionship, and purpose in this life, it also offered the promise of eternal bliss in the next. And as if all that wasn't tempting enough, it wasn't long before Christianity had even more to offer its converts. In AD 312, the emperor, Constantine himself, proclaimed himself a follower of Christ. Under his auspices, the church was soon exempted from taxes, and its hierarchy started to be richly rewarded. Bishops were paid 5 times as much as professors, 6 times as much as doctors. Professors made more than doctors? Wow. As much even as a local governor. Eternal delight in the next life, bureaucratic preferment in this. What more could one wish for? So runs the traditional argument, not Catherine Nixie's argument, I presume. And indeed, there is a great deal of truth in it. No doubt the lure of money, wealth, status, as well as the thought of eternal life, parentheses, quite apart from the sheer good sense and kindness of many of Jesus' teachings, end parentheses, must have had an effect on the numbers wishing to join this relatively young religion. But that was not how Christianity was sold in the 4th century. The church was not marketed as a way to improve a tax bill or as a balm for anxiety. Christianity was not offered to the Roman Empire as an ecclesiastical comfort blanket against the ills of the world. This was not a lifestyle choice. This was not even about life and death. It was far more important than that. What could be more important than life and death? This was a war. The struggle to convert the empire was nothing less than a battle between good and evil, between the forces of darkness and those of light. It was a battle between God and Satan himself. Yeah, I mean, that's what the Christians thought, right? That's okay. Nothing too, new. This is like a beginner's guide to Christianity taking over the Roman Empire, I guess. You could see it that way. Maybe it's just the chapter one to get your feet in the water. Like, does everybody know what we're talking about here? Okay. Chapter 2, the battleground of demons. Quote, "My name is Legion, for we are many." End quote. Mark 5:19. There's at least 5 of us. Gwitty and Edward BT, you get it right. Sonnet 1 by Mander. Schlenchnunheimer. If you don't know Schlenchnunheimer, you'll know Schlenchnunheimer after you hear that. Okay. This period was for the later church, an age of heroes. In those days, the great giants of the church still walked the earth. This was a time when St. Augustine might go to speak to St. Ambrose or write a letter to St. Jerome. Many of their names, even today, are well known. We have heard of the Emperor Constantine, of St. Martin, of St. Anthony, or at least of his monastery. Okay. We might even know the occasional humanizing detail about them. That Constantine founded Constantinople. What's humanizing about a guy founding a city and naming it after himself? Has any humans done that? What? Yes. That, parentheses, less appealingly, end parentheses, he boiled his wife in a bath. I hadn't heard that. That's fucked up. We might well know that Augustine had an overbearing mother. Yes, Helena, right? Or Helen. One of those. Or that as a young man he wished for God to make him chaste, but not yet. Oh, Augustine! Okay. We moved from Constantine to Augustine. Okay, so Constantine boiled his wife in a bath. Augustine, I don't know if his mother was overbearing. I know that she was the one who converted first and made Constantine go down and do a bunch of stuff in Palestine. We might well know that Augustine had an overbearing mother, or that as a young man he wished for God to make him chaste, but not yet. This is a period that can seem familiar. We should not be deceived. This was another country, and they did things differently there. It was a time when a monk might talk personally with Christ, walk with John the Baptist, and feel the tears of a prophet fall from heaven onto his skin. That happens today, at least in really weird warehouses in the Inland Empire. Well, I mean, maybe not today, but 20 years ago. The world then still glimmered with miracles. The blind were still healed. The faithful still resurrected from the tomb. The holy still walked on water. It was a strange, ethereal place, a William Blakeish world, where the doors of religious perception lay wide open. Is that anything like the doors of perception? Doors of religious perception. Okay. It's not quite as cool as LSD, right? A world, or mescaline in Aldous' case. A world in which a holy man might transform into a flickering flame, travel on a shining cloud, or single-handedly lay low a host of barbarians, armed solely with a flaming sword. I like when Ibn Arabi goes off on trips like that. This was a world of evil apparitions, too, not just holy ones. A place where Satan might walk past you in the road and a demon might sit next to you at dinner. A world in which your immortal soul was in perpetual peril. The barbarian hordes that were beginning to nibble at the edges of the empire paled in comparison to the hideous army of demons that, according to Christian writers, was already swarming, slithering, and lopping, I don't know, across it. My name, the demon had announced in the Gospel of Mark, quote, is Legion, for we are many. Yeah. End quote. This, to many Christian writers of the time, was no mere metaphor. Demons and the threat they posed were real. These demons may have been all but forgotten by modern historians, who tend to pass over demonologies with a silence that speaks eloquently of embarrassment. But such fiends obsessed, perhaps even possessed, some of the great minds of early Christianity. Demons stalk through the pages of Augustine's City of God. Or, to give it its full and often forgotten title, the City of God against the pagans. And they are a fearsome foe. They were, Augustine wrote, quote, teachers of depravity, delighting in obscenity, end quote. Faced with such a multifaceted threat, Christian writers mobilized. With the care of Victorian naturalists, the historians, theologians, and monks of the late 4th century began to observe and record the habits of this breed. In writings of Linnaean specificity, one monk divided all demonic thoughts into 8 main categories: gluttony, lust, avarice, sadness, anger, listlessness, vainglory, and pride. So they took out sadness and decided that wasn't a deadly sin. There used to be 8. Reminds me of that scene in History of the World Part 1 where Mel Brooks as Moses comes out with 3 tablets. These 10 commandments. If this list feels familiar, it is because it would form the basis of the medieval world's concept of the deadly sins. Listlessness, perhaps true to form, was subsumed into another sin to give the final total of 7. Right. Yeah. Okay. Gluttony, lust, avarice, and then not sadness, anger, vainglory, and pride. Listlessness is sloth. No, right? Sloth? Gluttony? Yeah, sloth. Listlessness? Is that? Are they in any way related to each other? Let me fucking Google that while I got you here. It went, someone says. Okay. Listlessness. Having no energy. Yeah, sloth. Let's turn up the music for a moment, Editor Edward. It went. What do you mean, it went? Alright, hang on. Alright, that was silly. Where were we? Yeah, we were talking about the 7 listlessness, right? We figured it out, right? Mm-hmm. It's just not a very... People don't really use the word all that much anymore. At least not people I know. These demonic descriptions were not, or not merely done for their own interest, though some monks did admit a tendency to linger a little too long over the thoughts of the more pornographic apparitions. Okay. Instead, such precise accounts... Oh, right, okay. Oh, so, yeah, on that level of hell, you're going to see... Oh, let me think about and meditate on that for a few more minutes while I adjust my... Instead, such precise accounts were seen as serving a valuable purpose in the Christian fight against evil. Knowledge, it was felt, was power. If you knew the demon's distinguishing features, habits, and methods of attack, then, just as a soldier might read Caesar's Gallic Wars before setting out to fight in Northern Europe, so you would be better able to face down this frightening foe. To know you is to have a better idea how to fight you. And I do. So the song goes. Complex demonologies appeared that explained everything from how these creatures were created, parentheses, a Miltonian fall from grace, end parentheses, okay, to their stench, parentheses, revolting, end parentheses, their geography, parentheses, Rome was a favorite haunt, end parentheses, the feel of their skin, parentheses, deathly cold, end parentheses, and even their sexual habits, parentheses, varied, imaginative, and persistent. Thank you very much. Sweet. Right. Everything was considered, including the ways in which the demons planned to overcome the logistical and linguistic difficulties involved in world domination. Quote, we should not think that there is one spirit of fornication that... Thank you. That seduces... What? Right. A person who, for example, commits fornication in Brittany, end quote, wrote one ancient observer, quote, and another for the person who does so in India. Okay. And for different spirits of fornication in Britain and India. Interesting. End parentheses. Instead, he explained there were innumerable spirits, a whole, quote, abominable army, end quote, that under its leader, Satan, harasses the entire world, enticing it to sin. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of that... What? Yeah. I don't know if any of that was new for you. It wasn't for me. But we're reading it. We'll read it. You know, like it's a person's perspective. And bringing up this and that idea for whatever reason, but I don't know. I think the purple petal is on the A sides is a little more enjoyable. It's more interesting. There's more surprises, more things that are like, oh, hey, that's an interesting thought. Oh, that's unusual. And reading the advice of the saints, it's kind of like, oh yeah, that reminds me of Buddhism and seems like maybe a good idea under certain circumstances. Where this is focusing all on the negative, which, yeah, probably shouldn't ignore the negative. I mean, the whole flow reversal from that it manifests in the purple petal is like starting from age 0 up until teenage years, doing nothing but criticizing and focusing on the negative aspects of Christianity, and then eventually as an adult being like, it'd be weird and kinky, like, is there anything positive about Christianity? That'd be hilarious. And then, and then now, 20 years after that, a more nuanced, like, okay, so these 5 different weird, exotic bird types of Christianity existed. Here they are in history. Here's their imprint in present day. And anyway, enough about that. Now let's focus on Buddhism. Now let's focus on Sufism. Now let's focus on Abraham Lincoln. Now let's focus on the serpent power. That's it for tonight. For today. Next time I see you, it'll be in the new place on A sides. It'll be speaking of which, it'll be the red and purple. I'll be doing purple petal, but not in this city, not in this area, in a different place. So I'll see you then. Till next time.